And Mary said, My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he has looked with favor on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed. Luke 1:46 through 48. But the other issue that I had when I took this diode board out was, and it's held on with a lock washer and a nut, and those are at 4 points across here. But when I took those out, they were mounted in rubber, and they are no longer attached to the bike. So there's no way to mount the diode board back in there securely. And so this guy sells this product, which is a solid mount. His theory was that the engineers at BMW thought they had a vibration problem. That's why they were losing so many diode boards, or having so many diode board malfunctions. And so, but he said that wasn't the case, and that you could put this solid mount in there, and it would actually give you better grounding on the diode board. So anyway, I'm going to try those out, and I'm going to see how that works out. At least, hopefully, I'll have some way to mount it in there, and maybe get the possible added benefit of improving the grounding. So anyway, we're going to work through this, and hopefully it works. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your negative battery lead is disconnected. You can see mine there. And then you got to turn off the gas pitcocks for your fuel, both sides. And then there are a couple of thumb wheels up there, plastic nuts that hold the back side of the tank on, and it just comes right off of there. Also, of course, you have to disconnect your fuel lines. You remove the tank, you just have to lift up on the back of it a little bit, because you have this rounded piece of steel, this piece right here that the tank sits on. The instructions for the solid mount show that the cover on top of the engine here needs to be removed. So in order to do that, it looks like I'm going to have to take the air filter loose to expose those. Because what you're doing is you're coming in from this side to access, so you can put the bolts on the nuts on the rear side of the solid mounts. That's a number 5 wrench that fits those screws right there, and it also fits the screws on the front cover, which are on either side of the front cover there. You can see those, and those are the only 2 things that hold that on. And so those 2 bolts were the only thing holding that cover on. Just slid it out, and I found that right down in there are the nuts and lock washer for those, the other side of those bolts. So one of those is easily accessible. An 8mm socket fits right on there nicely, and it actually came off without turning, so that was very nice. Now the rest of these are going to be a little more difficult to get to because they are obstructed by the starter, that lower one there, and by the solenoid for the starter on this side. So I took off the front cover there, just those 2 screws that I was showing you earlier, and here is where the diode board was mounted. You can see I still have one that didn't break up here, one of the rubber mounts. See how it's flexible, and this one did over there, and that's the one that I took the bolt out, so it should come right out, and you can see the hole, and that's what it looked like. And now I've got to get the other 3 out that I wasn't able to get to. So one of the bolts for the starter is up here, and I am going to guess that it is that one that's hiding back there, right back there. So we'll be taking that one out, and then there's two more. One is hidden by this hose. It's probably a crankcase ventilation hose. And so what I did was I removed the air filter, and I pulled this piece out so that it would allow that rubber piece to be free. Wasn't that hard to get that out of the air cleaner bracket, and I did end up getting the whole thing out, but in the process I tore the front end of the hose there, so I'm gonna have to either splice in a new piece or, you know, try to get a pre-molded hose from BMW, which I'm sure won't be inexpensive. Anyway, now you can see the bolt that's hiding, or the nut that's hiding down here. That's one of the ones that hold the starter in. And then on the other side, there's another one that holds the starter in right there, and then plus the one bolt inside the front cover. And also have to disconnect the wire right here, and then that should come out. And to save you a little socket hunting, that's a 13mm 1/4" drive. It fits right in there, and it also fits the one down there as well. Okay, that's the starter bolt on the front, and it is 10mm. So I was able to get the starter out. Just wanted to show where the bolts go. So there was the one that I took out in the front, and then you have the two holes on either side of the gear cover. So that is that. And it was a little challenging to get that out of there. You just have to kind of work it back and forth and a little bit, but it does come out. Okay, so there you can see the new mounts for the diode board installed, and I have the two grounding wires going. They're kind of redundant at this point because I have the metal in there, but I just kept them in there just for extra grounding. And another nice feature of those mounts is that they have a 2.5mm Allen depression in the end of it, so that you can put a little Allen wrench in there to tighten those up. And so the next step is to install the diode board. Okay, so I have the connector from the alternator in the middle, the 3-pronged one, and then the blue wire goes next to that. And then the other thing that was mentioned in the instructions that I missed telling you about was that you should leave those mounts loose on the back before you try to put the diode board on, because it doesn't have any flexibility like the rubber mounts had to get it to line up. So you have to put the diode board on there and then tighten up the studs, otherwise you won't be able to get it on. And that's the one connection I had to make on the other side. And so I think everything is tightened up and secure. So I think we're done with this part of it. I didn't disconnect anything down here. And I cleaned out the debris that was in there. And so now I'm going to put the starter back in. And so the wiring for the starter is that this red wire and this larger cable both go on this stud, and this wire right here, this wire right here is black, and it goes on the straight terminal right there. Okay, I got all the covers back on, and I'm ready to, and now the tank, and reconnect the battery and see if she will charge.